Who Comes with Cannons, Chapter 13. A Dreadful Surprise at Bentonville. While Truth and Martha went on with Michael Hartling's work, Robert gained health slowly. Todd still chafed as a prisoner, who could come out only after dark. The corn, harvested in the early fall by Quaker friends, was shucked and put into the corn crib for storage. They had received news from the north about Matthew Bardwell by way of the Underground Railroad. He was better, but his head had been fractured. He still suffered from headaches and dizziness and was not able to travel. In late September, they learned that a Union general named Sherman had taken Atlanta, Georgia, and was continuing on a march through that state to the sea in hopes of subduing it totally. Winter came with only one piece of news. Abraham Lincoln had been reelected. Through it all, the Bardwells went on with their lives, Truth teaching and Aunt Elizabeth doing what she could with shortages of food and everything else. The hams they had salted down had been taken by confiscating Confederate soldiers, and their corn crib had been plundered. They were left with one sorry horse. Early in February, friend Buchan came one night to tell them this Union General Sherman went across Georgia to Savannah on the sea. Now he is marching north through South Carolina. If he takes South Carolina, the war could be over. Hooray! Shouted Truth. William Buchan nodded. Yes, but there's a rub. There are Confederate soldiers aplenty in Goldsboro and others in South Carolina. If they get together to stop Sherman, they'll try to do it. How? Asked Truth. Oh, they'll fight, said Robert quietly. They're a courageous lot. It'll be a last-stand fight, too. Where will they fight? Asked his mother. Robert said gravely, wherever the two armies come across each other. That's how battles happen. He sighed. I know. I saw some of those battles right out in front. I'll never forget the sound of the drums and the bugles behind me. The army uses them to drive the men on. Oh, what good can come of this? Asked Elizabeth Bardwell, her hands on the sides of her head. An end to slavery, Ma, Todd replied. Another Quaker, Lucy's father, came riding through a rainstorm in mid-March. By the smile on his broad pink face, he brought good news. As he dismounted, stepping down into a puddle, he told Elizabeth Bardwell and Truth, Lucy's had her child. It is a girl, born last night near midnight. Oh, what wonderful news, cried Truth's aunt. Todd will be so pleased. He's so worried he wants to be with Lucy. Now the man frowned. There's more news. The top from Goldsboro is that Yankee armies are in North Carolina. There's no danger right now as I see it. He nodded at Truth. Lucy asked me to bring thee back with me when I go, Truth. My wife's ailing, and thee can help her. Can they leave thy school? Yes, Truth answered. Martha Buchan can teach. There are few children now. Good. Get thee ready to stay a week. My horse can carry double. I hid hay for her this winter. She has fared well. While Lucas Coxey went to the rocks to speak with Todd, Truth ran to her room. She put nightgowns and warm clothing into a bundle and was ready when he returned. An hour later, clasping the man's broad back as she perched behind him, the two of them reached the Goldsboro road that ran east and west. Here, friend Coxey halted. Truth, someone is coming, riding fast. Truth listened. Sure enough, there was a pounding, and down behind a tree-lined bend came a rider in Confederate gray. He flashed past, splashing them and shouting, Get off this road! Go home! And then he was gone. What does it mean? Truth asked Lucy's father. He was a courier, I think. The way he was riding, he's on urgent business. Let us take his advice. It was well meant. Lucy's father turned the sorrel mare onto a side road and nudged her into a canter. Some time later, Lucas Coxey suddenly reined in at the top of a hill. Hidden behind his back, Truth could not see why. She asked, What is it? Is there a swamp below? No. The man's voice was hollow. It's cavalry. Union and Confederate. They're fighting. Listen. While she craned her neck to see below, Truth listened. What she heard were the shouts of the men, the neighing of horses, and the ringing clang of metal on metal as the soldiers' sabers came slashing down. Though they were far away, she could see them as gray and blue figures mounted on horses, all struggling in a cluster. Sometimes a riderless horse darted out of the battle, leaving a man behind on the earth. She moaned, Oh, friend Coxey, what can we do? Turn around and take another road. We can't go down to that. They should not have seen it. As he reined the mare about, Truth buried her head in his back. Men were bleeding and dying down there. They rode to the foot of the hill and down a narrow path that could scarcely be called a road. They were on it only a little time before Coxey reined in again. A Union officer, accompanied by 6 troopers, was across the little road. The big bearded man was dirty, but had on a gold-braided uniform. He demanded, "Who do you be? Do you live around here? By your hat, I see you're a cursed Quaker who lets better men do his fighting for him." Lucy's father kept his dignity. "I am friend Lucas Coxey. I live near Bentonville. Who would thee be?" "My name is no matter to you. Who is that girl with you? Is she a slave? I can't see her face or her hands. If she is, let her go free, or it will not go well with you. All blacks are to be free." Truth hastily removed her big bonnet and a mitten so she could be seen. The officer grunted. "I see. There's to be fighting here, most likely. Take your family and get them west of here where they'll be safest." "And if we do not go?" "Then whatever happens is your own fault for being fools." The officer shrugged. He raised his right hand, reined his gray past Coxey's mare, and was followed at a trot by his men in single file. "A battle?" Truth repeated quietly as she put her bonnet on again. "So it appears." They met no more soldiers on the way, and in an hour's time they reached the Coxey's 2-story house. A small, thin, shawl-covered woman came running to them from the front door, waving her apron. "Who is that?" asked Truth, who had never seen her before. "The midwife from Goldsboro. Nancy Andrews is her name. She's been free for years. She brought her way out of slavery and brought her husband out too. He's a carpenter. She's to stay here for a day or 2 more." The black woman touched Lucas Coxey's stirrup and cried, "There have been soldiers here, Confederate ones. They told us to leave because they might fight here. We can't, Mrs. Coxey or Mrs. Bardwell or the baby. Not yet, we can't." "I know that, Nancy. We'll stay and take our chances." Truth slid down and asked, "Please take me to see Lucy and the baby." The baby lay yawning in the curve of Lucy's arm. She was tiny and wrinkled and red, with tufts of dark hair the color of Todd's. The new mother told Truth. "She's to be called Elizabeth Mary, after Todd's mother and mine. Thee has chosen a good, strong name." Just before noon on the next day, a sudden, enormous booming sound made Truth and Lucy start, and the baby open her eyes. "What is it?" asked Lucy. Lucas Coxey came into the bedroom with Nancy behind him. "That was a cannon. I've heard cannons fired on the 4th of July. Lucy, I believe we must move thee down from this floor. Nancy, take the baby, and I'll carry Lucy. Truth, bring the bedding and anything else Nancy tells thee we'll be needing. We may see a battle. God be with us."